Okay, so my presentation today is the Mekong River here in Thailand. Because I'm living in Thailand, I chose something that was relatable to me. Um, so hopefully this will be educational. Um, Alright, so the Mekong River, just going through with the basics, the pictures up on the screen would be the ending, which is the delta. The map in the middle is showing the full extent. If you'll go through, you'll be able to see up here where it actually is the Mekong River, and it traces down through the borders, comes down through, and then actually goes out here. So that would be this delta right here, and the horn and the water start where they say that the spring is. I couldn't actually see the spring when I traced it through on Google Earth, but I do see where the river ends. As you come in through here, it is right about here is where the river actually is ending. And I'll show you a little bit more as to why I'm calling that a horn later. So going through to the basics about like the location, the length, the information about this river basically, and the fluvial system.
The headstream of the Mekong River starts off in the Sanjangyuan National Nature Reserve, which is also the birthplace for Asia's longest and second longest river, with the Yangtze and the Yellow River. All three start their flow less than 500 kilometers away from the Mekong, but end up taking completely different courses through Southeast Asia. After leaving the Tibetan Plateau, the Mekong passes through the three parallel rivers area, where it flows between the huge Yangtze and the Salween River, with spots as narrow as 75 kilometers between the three rivers. After the three great rivers diverge, the Mekong River goes on to be used as an important border marker between the Southeast Asian nations of China, Myanmar, Thailand and Laos, with an over 850-kilometer long stretch between Thailand and Laos. After passing through Cambodia and Vietnam, the 4,350-kilometer long journey through a total of 6 countries comes to an end in the South China Sea. The Mekong River is the foundation of the livelihood of over 60 million people living along its banks in the lower Mekong Basin countries of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam.
Okay, so I just wanted to show this short clip. I thought that it actually said it slightly better than I did, but going over that information, talking about the Mekong River. Its location is starting in this mountain. I cannot say the name, but it is in the Tibetan Plateau. This spring, although the river has been known for centuries, this spring was not actually found until 1994. And the river is called many different things throughout the countries. As the video had mentioned, it goes through 6 different countries, passing through the borders and different things. So there are different names that this river will take as you trace it up through from the delta up to the horn. So the very first name is the Das Chu, which is in Tibet, which is up here where this blue line is, showing that it starts. The horn right here, you can see the mountains. I traced them slightly with the lines for the Arats, if I say that correctly. As you go in through China, it becomes the Landform. Going in through Myanmar, although the original name and the official names are changed through Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, all of them understand and actually call it the Mekong River. Google Maps actually even shows that it is the Mekong River. However, official names as you go through these countries are given other names and other distinctions. You'll see that going through, the Mekong River actually provides the border for some of these countries. For Laos, as we'll go through, you'll see that it is a source of economic hope. The Mekong River is very important and very prominent to the people of Laos because it is what can bring them financial stability. So hopefully that will be helpful. It forms a border between Laos and Thailand. And it flows through there, providing a natural border for those countries. It then goes to Cambodia. This becomes an issue because Cambodia is now lower on the list, with many different countries intervening, going through. So Cambodia requires this water to be in order to survive. They actually call it what is called the Big River, which is interesting because although Cambodia has other rivers, the Mekong River is one of its largest. It is the largest and provides the most water to the land. Without the water from the Mekong River, Cambodia is actually very dry and very barren. So it's very detrimental to the people if something happens to this river. Even though they have others, they actually call this the Big River. This is the main source of water for their country. You could then go down into Vietnam, forming a branch, the Dendrite Delta, emptying into the South China Sea. There are records and stuff showing that it appeared before 1732. Actually, if you go through some of the histories for the other countries, you will find that some are saying back into the 1500s that this was became a prominent river up in some of the higher countries and then came down into Vietnam. It's interesting, though, that even though it appeared in the 1700s and the 1500s for Laos and Thailand, it was not found, like the source was not found until 1994. So that was really interesting to me. So down here at this bottom corner is the line where China meets. So there's Myanmar and China. This is actually a branch, and the Mekong River is actually a portion of the border for there as well. You'll see in the top corner that I have my Google Maps pins. I went through and traced the entire river and found some really cool places. This one is showing you the Horn, the Cirques, and the Arets. Again, like I said, you couldn't really see it in the picture that I showed the first, but if you make it into the 3D model, you're able to see the arches and the valleys in there and be able to see where the water was in here, and it flows down through. And this, again, is where the spring would be. So the Tibetan Plateau obviously has a very icy past. The Mekong River comes from that history. We can see down here that there is a glacial through where the river cut through, because that is where the glaciers pushed through. Again, you can see the arêtes and the glacial throughs going down here. These bridges and archways, however you might describe them, are forms of showing that something cut through these mountains. That would be the glaciers before. The drumlins down here at the edge, as you go down further into the south from the Tibetan Plateau, you will see many of the areas actually have these landforms. There were several different spots that you could see prominent drumlins near the river, directly near the river, showing the glacial work there. Up here you can see the scrapings. It's really interesting. At first I thought it was farmland, and some of it is, but it's very uniquely cut, very uniquely scraped out, and that would be the glacial, I guess, abrasion going through that. Down here we'll come down to the outwash. This up here, this brown portion in the top corner, is where the mountains are. As you come up into here, this is actually where where my pointer is actually where the mountain is, where the river starts. It kind of flows down through, and then you can see that there is the glacial outwash, because this actually lowers and then goes down into the outwash plain. Later on, down near this would be in Cambodia, you can see that there is this moraine. And it was really cool because there's not many of them in the plain, but this one was very prominent. If I were to show you on the Google Maps, it was really prominent that it kind of started here, wrapped around, and you can see the edging of it here, but where my red marker is this landmass that you can see where the sediment was given at the end, and I would assume that this is a terminal moraine because I don't see where there were any past this point, and it was relatively close to the coast. So it would have been probably very close to the ending of where the glacier would have been. All right, so moving on, there are many different landforms that are within this river that we learned about in our time and our process. In our chapters, there was this cut through right here for the mountains. You can see, again, these pictures are ones that I took directly from Google Earth when I was going through and tracing these through. This one right here is a cut through. It goes all the way down. You can see where it divided this mountain range, and this is just a small little spot as you're going through the plain. I don't necessarily call it one of the moraines. It didn't quite have that landform, but it was relatively just small on its own, so it possibly could have counted as that. Down here you can see there is, as you're going around this corner, the sediment changed. It was dropping that off. So this portion right here where this pin is actually completely covered in with sediment, and it is no longer being a part of the active river. If you come up here, again, you're able to see the difference of the flow in the river as you're going down around the slower points, the faster points in the river. The deposition, it's dropping off on the inside and wearing away on the outside through this little meander and creating these extended spots for the riverbanks. We come down here, we see some very beautiful river meanders. There were several spots that throughout this river you were able to see something like this, but I feel that this was the most mostly together and really just standardized meanders. You are not able to see it very well, but I guess actually my pictures are backwards. Very sorry about that. Down here you will see the rock fall down here where this point is. These rocks have fallen down from the side because this is a very deep cut through for this river. It's inside of the mountains. You'll be able to see it's a very deep cut through. I guess technically it would be a glacial trough, glacier through. So right here it actually has the rocks and debris, large rocks that are pushing out the water and kind of moving it over. Up here would actually be the river braiding. So I'm very sorry about that. That is mixed up. This would be the river braiding. As you can see right through here, it comes down, and Google Earth kind of has it changed up a little bit on the pictures, but you can see the mountains going through, the errats here from the glacial thing, I guess abrasion. But here the river is starting to braid, and these areas have a lot of the sediment deposition there. This water right here, actually you can see if you were to zoom in, is very turbulent. Going through here you can see that there's extremely fast water moving through here, where going down here where this sediment is dark, where the river is darker and brown, it's moving much slower. But here where it's blue, you can tell it's moving quite fast. You can even see it with like the roughness of the water. Although this picture does not show it extremely detailed as much as you can with Google Earth, it is very it's a very rough texture right there. And then again at the end you find the river delta, which is the dendrite delta, and it breaks down through and it goes out and enters into the coast. So these systems interact. Although I'm talking about the fluvial system in my presentation, which obviously the Mekong River is obviously fluvial. It's water, it's rivers. It interacts with the other systems. As I had mentioned, it interacts with the glacial system. Many of the, like as you're up at the top of where this river is formed, you'll see many evidence of the glacier movement, the cutting through, the abrasion. You'll find all of that at the top or the northern part of this river. As you go down, you can see down here at this bottom corner, I have showing where the sediment has been dropped off. This used to be a portion of the river, you can tell, because this is bedrock right here. This is the very hard, I believe, metamorphic rock. But this right here is just the sand, the sediment that has been dropped off. They say that 187 million tons of sediment passes through here. That's a lot. So mass movement, we're going through with the mass movement, with the amount of sediment that goes through the Mekong system, it interacts with the mass movement system as well. Last but not least, it is also interacting with the coastal and oceanic systems. All of this fresh water that goes through here is entering into the ocean. It is interacting with the saline levels. It is interacting with the life that would live on this coast. It's interacting with the coast itself and causing abrasion to it. You can see where this where the dark sediment water is, or where the fresh water is meeting, and these sediments have not quite mixed well yet. So you can see that it is still a part of the coastline for this. They're saying that at its highest point, the Mekong River reaches flows of 500,000 cubic feet per second, which is massive amounts. Although, as you go down through, the amount of water that is actually entering into the ocean would be much less, because you have to take in account for the agriculture, for the everyday life, for the people that are using it, and for obviously the plants and the water, the soil that would absorb it and use it in the basin. But again, it is interacting with these three systems for sure. Going into that concept about the lack of water getting to the end, we're going to go into the concept of the river basin. The river basin is actually quite large. You'll see these pictures at the bottom. You'll see the tree life, the grass, the mountains. Over here this is actually pictures that I have taken. The bottom two pictures, actually even this one right here, I have taken here in Thailand by the river when I was out on a few of my trips. You can see that it's very green, very lush. Up here, down as you go through for the river delta, you will find there are mangroves. Here you can see that there's farming, a lot of farming involved with it, and then they also use China is using this also for a shipping port. So the Mekong River and the river basin are very much a source of life. Up here you can see the yellow portions are not as high, not as green. That is a result of the land that it is on. Like I had said, I believe it was the metamorphic rock that is in this upper part. It's very hard, very dense. The water's not really absorbing into it, it's just flowing through it, coming down to the lower portions, and then it is expanding massively. So from the spring here up at the top of in Tibet, in the Tibetan plateau, down to the delta leading out to the South China Sea, which I had already shown, the Mekong River is approximately 2,700 miles, which is quite large. However, it is only the 12th largest in the world and making it the 7th largest in Asia. Its basin is more than 313,000 square miles of land. So it's actually, the basin is quite large. Although it's not quite the biggest in the world as far as rivers, the basin is quite large and covers a major area, bringing forth a lot of species of life, of plants, of fish, of all of these things, of the animal life that are dependent on the river. It is a major source here in 6 different countries. So the Mekong River is a very prominent part of life here in this area. Going through for the biodiversity, they say that the Mekong River is second only to the Amazon basin, which is massive. So in comparison, although it is only the 12th longest, it is the biodiversity that is around here is only second to the Amazon basin, which is extreme. The Mekong River is home and habitat to many endangered species, many rare species, mostly fish. They have many different types of large fish, the carp, the different catfish. There's some very rare ones that are in the Mekong River. However, there is also the rare dolphin here, I believe it's called Irrawaddy, and this is a freshwater dolphin that is, its habitat is in the Mekong River, or one of its habitats are in the Mekong River. It's a very rare dolphin. And although fishing is very important here in Thailand, in Cambodia, this area, this region, in 2012, the Cambodian government recognized that they needed to protect this species. So they created a portion of the Mekong River is now a protected area for this dolphin specifically. The fishing is restricted, the catching, the diverting of the water, all sorts of things. This became a sanctuary for the dolphins, and it became heavily restricted. So it also provides the biodiversity of the Mekong River also provides habitats for thousands of different plant species, thousands of different animals, and the Mekong River actually is ranking the world's largest producer of freshwater fish with over 1,300 different species inside of the Mekong River, which is which is extreme. So it has many fisheries. It has, the life here is basically always fish because there's such an abundance of it. It is the world's largest producer of the freshwater fish. Effects that the Mekong River have on this region, again, going back through some of the information that I had already said, the Mekong River is a major source for the freshwater fish. They say that 25% of the world's fish come from this river for the production of that. The Mekong River from top to bottom has, I believe, 13 to 15 active and in process, used hydroelectric dams. There are several in the making. There are plans for more in the future. So there is the hydroelectric, there's all of that going on. So there is economic benefit from the fish, from the life that is in it, from the water that flows through. There is the agricultural benefit coming down from the Himalayas, the amount of sediment and minerals that are brought down through create a rich and a fertile land for the rice industry and for many other vegetables. Again, this is the picture in the background is actually a picture of a floating market on the Mekong River. The Mekong River brings the sediment down for one of the largest and most productive rice production areas in the world. Outside of that, again, the natural benefit is it is a natural border between China, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam, and Cambodia. Apparently I missed that one, sorry. Between the 6 countries, it is a natural border. It makes it a little easier for protection. There's quite a large expanse, making it harder for the people to cross and a little easier for the countries to have that and maintain that natural border. It provides a sanctuary to the rare fish species, and it provides renewable sources of food and energy to over 60 million people who are living from top to bottom among the banks of the rivers. So it has quite a benefit and effect on this region. Without this water, again, like I had said, for the dams coming into effect. Without the water that the Mekong River provides, these countries could be left in drought, could be left without being able to feed their people, without the fish industry, without the rice industry. It's actually gotten to a point where because of the dams, there are times that the rice fields are able to flourish and be used during the dry seasons without irrigation. It dries out in time and fills up back again during the wet season. And that is something relatively new to this region due to the dams that have been put in place. Again, there are 6 different countries that are involved in this one system. There's quite the issues with that. It's getting all of your neighbors to work together. So as of 2019, China is operating 11 of the world's largest dams, and those are on the Mekong River. They also have many more planned, and all of the tributaries, or at least the majority of the larger tributaries, have several hundred. They're actually saying up to 400 have already been built on the tributaries that go into the Mekong River, again diverting the water and restricting the water for the countries that are lower. So there's the issue with that at the very beginning of the river. It is not just Laos, or it is not just China, it is also Laos. As of 2020, they have completed 2 of the dams for the hydroelectric projects that they have in hopes of helping their country. And then they have 3 more that are planned. Cambodia had also had planned to build to build the dams on the Mekong River for their country, because Cambodia is a landlocked country. Or not landlocked, Laos is the landlocked, but Cambodia is a very dry country. Like I had said, that the Mekong River is what is called the big river for them, meaning it provides the most water to their country. They had considered building dams on their country, but due to everything going on, due to the lack of water and the amount of dams that the other countries have built, Cambodia announced that they will put their plans on hold until 2030. You can see in this picture is marking all of the dams that are being built. It doesn't quite have, it doesn't have the north up here, but there are a few more above that. These white ones are actually some that are under construction or being planned. And then you go down through, the black ones are absolutely there and being used. These 2 dams on this top are up in China. This is what I found on Google, some of the dams that I found on Google Earth. You can see that it's the large, the Jin River flowing through, and it's very large. But then they put this dam here and it diverted the water. So a portion of that is still going down, flowing down. There's another dam here at the bottom, and then it continues on to further, and it does have more tributaries, so it does pick back up and does flows much more than this. But you can see the difference of the amount of water and the diversion of that water that was originally going to go down and flow down. Another dam right here, this one is actually in Laos. It is one of the ones near the bottom of down here. It's one of these ones. Actually, probably this one right here, because that one's built. Wait, that one's Laos. So it would be this one right here. Oh yeah, this name right here, the Zainburi and Zainburi. So it is this one right here in Laos. And then you can also see that this dam right here, this one is another dam in China, but it is actually under construction and being built still. So there are several things going on with the water. Again, I found another video that I feel was useful for education, and I do have the link on it, but this next slide will have that short video to play, and then I'll continue on with those concerns.
The ecosystem and presence of resources in the Mekong River is not a given, however, and geopolitical issues are on the rise. Roughly the first third of the Mekong River lays in China, and since they control the entire upper stream of the river, all countries of the lower basin are dependent on China's goodwill to not weaponize the water against them. Since 1995, China has already constructed 11 large-scale hydropower stations along the Mekong, which disturb the migratory patterns of fish and reduce agricultural yield downstream by reducing the volume of sediments from the Himalayas, which reach the delta. After a large-scale drought in 2016, China released emergency water flows from one of its dams. But there's no guarantee that China will always show this level of empathy without demanding something in return. It is not just China, though, who wreaks havoc with their mega projects. Laos also dreams and actively works on constructing a series of dams, much to Cambodia's and Vietnam's displeasure. These dams are supposed to lift the landlocked country out of poverty and bring in foreign currency from electricity sales to Thailand and China. While they may function as a stepping stone to industrialization for Laos, these dams will add even more stress to the already weakened ecosystem and political relations of the region. It is clear that these projects are a cause for severe political tensions in the region, so we can just hope that sufficient communication, collaboration, and a sense of fairness will lead to a continued growth of the Southeast Asian nations, without a severe destruction of the ecology and the livelihood of the millions of people which are calling the banks of the Mekong River their home.
Right. So again, it's not always a guarantee, and because of the amount of dams that are on this river, we come into the fact that there are major concerns for the future. Although the Mekong River can provide the amount of life that is needed for these countries and has over hundreds of years, you can see the rice fields here up at the top. We run into this situation where we have this major amount of water and only small amounts are going back down through. So since 1995, when China constructed their first dam, the flow to the lower countries has increasingly diminished and caused lower areas to run dry. These dams have restricted the movement of the fish, like the video I had just shown, and the sediment that is going to the agriculture. So the lower countries that require the fisheries, that require the industry and the economics that are brought from the fish and from the agricultural benefits, they are running into the issue that their land is not as fertile because of the sediment not being able to get past the dams as much. They're running into the natural migration of the fish are not able to reach down as far. So they're running into a lot of issues. And as the countries build and plan to build more dams on these rivers, this is a concern for the future. So again, like the video had said, in hopes of making a good future, it would be the 6 countries making sure that they are together, making sure they are talking, making sure they are working together, that all 6 countries are able to sustain and be sustained without having the Mekong River diverted and losing these natural habitats. Along with that, there is another concern. And this is one that I actually found while I was on Google Earth. It was very interesting to me. This right here, all of this white, is actually not foam or anything else. And this is in China. This is before some of the dams. In China, this is actually the trash and the garbage, the plastic that has gotten in, and it is so full that it literally clouded over the river and is flowing down through the Mekong River, and it is polluting and causing pollution and causing those issues to be further down. So again, going through multiple countries with the dams, with the pollution, with the waste disposal of some countries, there are concerns for the future when it comes to the Mekong River. It is an iconic and very important symbol in these countries. It is required for the life of several million people. 60 million people are living on the banks and within these countries are depending on the Mekong River, depending on this water to flow through and to not be restricted between these countries. So I hope that this was educational. I hope that this was understandable and useful, and I hope that you enjoyed. Have a nice day.